Park Chan-wook's decision to leave. So, Park Chan-wook, iconic South Korean filmmaker, talked to him recently in the World of Cinema episode Gonzalo. He's the guy who did the Revenge trilogy, consisting of Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Old Boy, Lady Vengeance. Iconic trilogy, as well. The BAFTA-winning, Cannes-winning Handmaiden, which came out in 2016, and now this, which he actually won Best Director for at the Cannes Film Festival this year, which is Decision to Leave. So it stars Tang Hui and Park Hui-il, and it follows the story of Detective Hwai Jun, and he's this overworked detective. So at the beginning we have this whole discombobulating sequence where you feel like, oh wait, what? You're really confused with what's going on. Everything's just happening like a mile a minute. You're getting like thrown to different locations, different scenes. You're like, right, wait, this is really confusing. Anyway, so you get the whole discombobulating sequence. It's basically to show how exhausting and strenuous the life of Hwai Jun is. He basically has no time for his wife, and their whole marriage is labelled as a weekend marriage, because that's the only time they really get to see each other, is a couple times at the weekend, because she's busy as a psychologist, he's busy as a detective. So they don't really get to spend any time together, and consequently, Hwai Jun is very lonely. However, things change when there is the death of this rock climber, and so Hwai Jun has to investigate, was this an accident or was it a murder, and slowly he begins to suspect that the widow, Soi Rei, is involved in the crime in some way, but also he's slowly starting to fall in love with her. So there's the setup for you. And so first and foremost, this is a love story. It's a love story blended with a neo-noir, where we're watching two people fall in love in this, surrounding this strange and murky circumstances. This is definitely one of Park Chan-wook's more sensitive pictures that strays away from the more violent films of his past, but there still is this darkness to the film where it's like, this is really inappropriate that these two are sort of slowly getting interested in each other in strange ways. But that's sort of Wook's style, is he kind of links this darkness and weirdness in life. And I will also say, within this film, it still has Wook's uncanny humour, where even in like the darkest circumstances, he can throw in some like levity and some joy to it. Like, there's a particularly funny chase sequence which has this, with involving stairs and exhaustion with Hwai Jun and his partner, and this whole gag involving expensive sushi, which is really cute and funny. But why Decision to Leave works so well is because it's directed so masterfully and smoothly. I mean, I've praised this man so many times. He's just a masterclass storyteller. But there's also this really classic feel to the entire picture, and one that harkens back to like classic noirs with like femme fatales, where the detective sort of becomes infatuated with. And there is an absolute definite tribute to Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo in this. There is absolutely inflections of that film here, with this whole idea of obsession, and where the detective is slowly sort of becoming mesmerized by the subject that he is, paid to sort of follow or investigate. This is, what's wrong. Exactly. But yeah, it really is. It's a solid detective film, and one which takes really strange routes and things you don't really see coming, which sort of works perfectly for noir, where you go, okay, we're going in this direction now, which you're like, what? And it kind of leaves you guessing of like, how is this possibly going to end? And there's also this whole sort of feeling of like sadness that sort of, permeates throughout the film, and as well as this whole thing of loneliness. There's actually a great scene where there's another chase sequence where they're going after another suspected killer. And basically this whole killer is basically saying, I only ever did these things for love. And it's this whole sort of tragic instance, which is also brilliantly shot. There are some really fabulous looking sequences. There's a whole bit on the rooftops. There's a whole scene on the beach, which looks dazzling. It's a really, really pretty film to look at. Really interesting POV shots as well, which I was like, wow, not seen that before. There is just...
You don't see a lot of POV shots, no.
Yeah. there's just a whole really great fluidity to the film. There's just it's just really well constructed and put together. you know, I just really did. I really thoroughly enjoyed Decision to Leave. I think this is another great film that you can add to an already iconic filmography that, you know, Wook has.
Oh.
In terms
It's
of,
honestly impressive, like
yeah,
keeping it up for so long,
mhm,
for so many films,
mhm,
like that level of quality.
yeah, yeah. I will say, I think it's quite interesting in terms of gripes. I do think it might go on just a bit too long. It's 2 hours 20 minutes, and I think you could maybe
Yeah.
trim some stuff here. There is certain like plot threads where it kind of just kind of keeps going, and it's like, well, you could have probably reined that in a bit. But overall, it's still really worth it. This is a really beautiful, classic style love/noir film, which, you know, has odes to these great iconic films of the past. And
That's funny because you
uh-huh,
said it's a nod to Vertigo, and
mhm.
that's one of those films where I think they could have reined it in and cut a little bit of meat
That
from that
film
movie.
is the
So
absolute perfect length, Goodfellow. Don't
I'm
you
sorry,
dare!
it
Don't you
runs
dare!
too long for me. It runs too long for me.
Is
One of my
mhm,
favorite things Hitchcock ever did was the ending to North to Northwest,
mhm.
where he literally just grabs her off the cliff and they're instantly on the train. We have the innuendo, and that's the film. That's how it ends. It's just fucking. That's the end of the film. Done.
No,
Just
well,
it. Love
Vertigo.
that.
I'd say probably my only gripe with Vertigo was that it just kind of like it ends, and then it just ends quickly, and it's like, well, you could have given us another minute, you know.
I thought it
Hitchcock
ran
always
too
ends
long.
he always ends his films snappy, man. What are you talking
Yeah,
about too long?
I really thought the second half of the movie is a bit too bloated for me.
Anyway,
Honestly.
this isn't a review for Vertigo. We'll get to that in a minute. This is a review for Decision to Leave, and this is what
But yeah, what I'm saying is
uh,
that if Decision to Leave feels a bit too long,
mhm.
that was part of the match.
Yeah. I think it's just more of like little things could have been reined in a bit. Like it kind
Yeah.
of goes
Okay.
in like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's sort of like confusing, you know, and it's sort of like
Mm.
it's a purposely sort of confusing film at times. Where you're like, okay, this is leading this way and this way, and you're never meant to get a solid picture of
Okay.
Soy Ray. You're not really meant to get clear who is this person, why has she done these things in the past.
So it's
Uh-huh.
purposefully confusing and overwhelming in order
It's
to like
purposely
get you,
sort
like,
of like
what's going on. Yeah.
like Hwaijun, you're purposely
Hmm.
misled and taken on routes and sort of never getting this. There's a whole thing in the film where basically he has a wall of like unfinished cases and things like that, and he's sort of
Yeah.
like, and that becomes what keeps him up at night. He has insomnia as well, and you sort of get this with Soy Ray's, that she's a figure that he is falling in love with, but he knows it's wrong and he can't really
Yeah. It's just
understand.
another one of his
It's a
unsolved
case.
cases.
She's a case
Yeah.
that he cannot crack, and I think that's a good way to sort of leave it there. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe to the Unwanted Opinion YouTube channel? We have new reviews and podcast episodes every single week. So subscribe now and don't miss our unwanted opinions.